Hey there guys, and welcome back to Myuu. The case that I have for you today is a rampage that took place in just a few hours but left behind 30 different crime scenes as well as numerous people injured and killed. This case is known as the Cumbria shootings, and this is the case of Derrick Bird. Derrick was an Englishman born on the 27th of November 1957. He was at a time married, but they had since separated, and he had two grown sons. He lived alone, but people described him as quiet and popular. One of his passions in life was scuba diving, and the other was his self-employed job as a taxi driver. But it was in 2007, when he was driving a taxi, that four men decided they didn't want to pay, and that they would run instead. Derrick tried to stop them, and they savagely beat him, rendering him unconscious. His friends claim that this attack actually kind of changed him. And in 2010, there was a tax investigation against him by the HM Revenue and Customs, and one of his friends claimed that he had about £60,000 in a secret bank account. It was in June of that same year that Derrick did something that no one was really expecting, and still to this day leaves people questioning the motives behind it. A few days before, on the 31st of May 2010, Derrick tried phoning his brother 44 times. And on the 2nd of June, he drove to his brother's house. Derrick shot his twin brother 11 times in the head and body with a rifle, killing him. When he left his brother's home, he traveled to Frissington, and to the home of Kevin Commons, who was the family's solicitor. Kevin tried to get into his car to leave, and Derrick shot at him with a sawn-off shotgun, wounding Kevin's arm. When Kevin got out of the vehicle, he was shot twice in the head with the rifle. Kevin also died. Around 10:30 a.m., Derrick arrived in Whitehaven. He called over Darren Newcastle to his taxi, and Darren was also a taxi driver, and he and Derrick knew each other, but they actually had some bad blood and would often feud. As Darren got close to the taxi, Derrick shot him twice in the face and the chest at point-blank range, killing him. So then Derrick drove alongside another taxi driver, Donald Reed. He shot Donald in the back and drove away. But Donald wasn't actually fatally wounded, so Derrick doubled back. He shot 2 more times at Donald as Donald waited for the emergency services, but luckily these 2 shots missed and Donald survived the attack. But Derrick's rampage against the taxi drivers was not quite finished yet. At another taxi stand, he called over another taxi driver, Paul Wilson, to his taxi. At close range, Paul was shot in the face with the shotgun. Miraculously, he survived, but he was left severely wounded. By this time, some unarmed police officers from the nearby station had arrived on scene and began to follow Derrick as armed response teams began to dispatch out from other stations. Even with the police behind him, he shot at a passing taxi, wounding the driver, Terry Kennedy, and the passenger, Emma Percival. And then he aimed the shotgun at the unarmed police officers. But he didn't shoot them. As the officers took cover, Derrick used the opportunity to flee and lose them. A manhunt was underway for Derrick, and residents in all nearby towns were urged to stay indoors while this threat was active. His first few attacks were on people known to him, his twin brother, the solicitor, and the taxi driver that he had a feud with. And then he was targeting taxi drivers. As he approached Egremont around 10:55 a.m., his attacks appeared to become more random. As Susan Hughes walked home from the store, Derrick stopped near her and shot her in the chest with a shotgun. He got out of the taxi, struggled with her briefly, and then shot her in the back of the head, killing her also. Kenneth Fishburne was also walking home, and he suffered fatal wounds to his head and his chest from the shotgun. Derrick then called Leslie Hunter over to his taxi, and at close range, he shot him in the face with the shotgun, and as Leslie put his hands to his face and turned around to protect himself, he was shot a second time in the back of the head. Somehow, miraculously, after being shot twice at close range with a shotgun to the head, Leslie survived. Derrick tried shooting at a teenage girl that was out walking, but luckily he missed her. But then, for some reason, he went to the home of Jason Carey. Now, Jason and Derrick were both members of the same diving club, but when Jason's wife opened the door, Derrick turned around and left. I'm not sure if his plan was to kill Jason. If it was, he could have just killed his wife, gone in the house, and then killed Jason as well. So I think there was something different going on here, but there's really no details other than him going to the house and leaving once the wife opened the door. Derrick continued with his rampage, with Jennifer Jackson being his next murder victim. She was shot in the chest with a shotgun, and then twice in the head with a rifle. Derrick drove past the Jacksons' farm, but then turned around and came back, firing the shotgun. Jennifer's husband, James Jackson, was also fatally wounded, and Christine Hunter Hall, who was also on the farm, suffered non-life-threatening wounds. In a nearby field, Gary Purdham was shot and killed. It was around 11:10 a.m. in Carlton when Isaac Dixon was shot twice at close range, and he also died. Now, Derrick decided to change his plan of attack. As he drove slowly, he waved other motorists to pass him, and as they did, he would shoot at them. One motorist, James Clark, suffered a shotgun blast to the head. It's unknown if he died from the gunshot or from the resulting crash. When Derrick came upon a narrow tunnel that only one vehicle can get through at a time, he waved Harry Berger to go through first. As he did so, he shot at him. Harry suffered a severe injury to his arm, but he did survive. His vehicle, however, was immobilized and blocking the tunnel. A group of armed response vehicles were following Derrick's trail of bodies, desperately trying to locate and catch up with him. Harry's vehicle blocked their passage through the tunnel. They had to push the vehicle out of the way, causing the armed police officers to fall further behind their deadly murderous suspect. Cyclist Michael Pike was the next murder victim, being shot twice in the head. And just seconds later, Jane Robinson was shot at point-blank range in the head and the chest with the shotgun, killing her also. Jackie Lewis was shot in the neck, and Fiona Moretto was shot in the chest, but both of them survived. In Butte, Derrick drove around the town, firing upon numerous pedestrians as he drove, luckily missing several, until Nathan Jones was shot in the face. He was severely wounded, but he did survive his injuries. And then Derrick came upon a couple taking a picture together outside of their car. Samantha Christie was shot in the face, but she also survived. Derrick told her boyfriend Craig Ross to run, and as he did, Derrick shot at him. Luckily, all of the shots missed, and Craig survived also. Derrick continued on with his driving becoming more erratic, and he fired upon two more cyclists, but he missed those also, and then he crashed his taxi into several parked vehicles and a wall. By this point, he was getting low on ammo, getting low on gas, And also, due to the crash, one of the wheels on the vehicle was severely damaged and he couldn't drive it very well. So eventually, he decided to abandon the vehicle. As he was about to get the rifle out of the vehicle, a family of 4 nearby asked if he wanted any help. Strangely, Derrick didn't shoot at them. He declined their help and told them to leave. It was 12:36 p.m. when armed police officers and canine officers arrived on scene of the crashed taxi. It was 2 p.m. when the announcement was made that Derrick's body had been found in the nearby woods with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Residents could go back outside again, as now the threat was over. There were 30 different crime scenes being investigated by the police, and Derrick had killed 12 people, injured 11 people, and missed multiple others. No one knows why Derrick went on this deadly rampage, but there are a couple of theories. One of them is that it was a grudge over the local nuclear power plant. Derrick had previously worked there, but he resigned in 1990 due to an allegation against him of theft of wood. He was actually convicted and received a 12-month suspended sentence for this. Now, this theory comes into play because 3 of the deceased victims were power plant employees. However, there is no evidence to suggest that any of those 3 had any involvement in his resignation. Also, if that was his motive, why did he target his brother and his solicitor first before those 3 being seen as more random victims? In my opinion, it's not a very plausible theory. The second theory is over the tax investigation. The same friend that said he had £60,000 in a secret bank account also said that Derrick believed his brother and solicitor were conspiring against him to have him put in prison over this tax investigation. This one would make sense as to why he targeted the brother and solicitor first. And same with the third theory, in that there was a dispute over the father's will. There is one claim that Derrick had tried to seek mental help previously, but he was declined. However, this account is unconfirmed. Not only will the victims not get any proper justice, but because Derrick decided to take the easy way out, they'll never know why this happened to them and their loved ones. Unfortunately, it's not that uncommon for someone to go on a rampage, first targeting a few specific people, and then targeting anyone nearby. But in this rampage, there's a couple of interesting parts. One is, what was his purpose in going to Jason Carey's house? And the second is, why didn't he kill this family of 4? His rifle was right there. They were unaware of the shootings and basically offered themselves up to him. He easily could have made them his final victims. His vehicle was wrecked at this point. He was low on ammo and he was about to go into the woods to commit suicide. So maybe he was done with his rampage and just let this family go and he's going to go commit suicide. But that kind of seems a little bit unlikely to me. The only assumption I can come up with is that in this family, it was a father, a mother, and their 2 children, and the 2 children were just ages 3 and 4. All of his targets were adults, other than the teenage girl that he had shot with, but maybe he thought the teenager was an adult also. We don't know if it's just a coincidence that it was adults that were out that he fired upon, or if he was purposely avoiding children. But let me know your thoughts on to why he maybe left this family alive, and also why he went to his friend's house. I'm assuming they were friends, because why wouldn't he have killed the wife and Jason Carey also? Like the video if you liked it, dislike if you didn't, let me know why, and be sure to subscribe and I'll get working on the next video for you guys. Stay safe out there, it is a very crazy world.